In a previous video, I talked about why I get books slabbed. In this video, I'm going to tell you why you should be getting your comic books graded. Stay tuned to this video. Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. All jokes aside, I am not going to tell you guys how to collect comic books. I'm certainly not going to tell you whether you should be getting books slabbed. What I am going to do is to give you a couple of things to think about before you slab a book. Okay, so the first thing I want you to think about is, why are you getting the comic book graded? Is it for preservation? Is it for protection? Is it for display? What's your rationale for actually getting a comic book slabbed? Now, you might say, I want to do it just because, and you know what? That's perfectly fine. If that's why you're doing it, that's cool. But make sure you know why you're doing what you're going to do before you do it. So the second thing I want you to think about is, do you want to take the risk of shipping your books across country? You might be shipping your books via UPS. You could be shipping your books via FedEx or United States Postal Service. If you're putting them in the mail, you're taking a risk. And that risk can be negated by taking out insurance, but then you're also looking at some added cost. So just ask yourself, do you want to take the risk of sending your book in the mail, potentially across the country, where it's out of your control and where it could potentially get damaged? The third thing that I want you to think about is processing time to get your books graded. And also, if you need pressing, there's some additional time there. When you look at the grading process, according to CGC's website, for example, it takes anywhere from 36 to 57 days for grading. If your book needs to be cleaned and pressed, you're looking at an additional 26 to 45 days. If you add those two things up, the range is anywhere from 62 days on the low end to 102 days for both a clean, press, and also grading. It should be mentioned that that does not include shipping time, which could be up to a week when you're shipping your books out, and an additional few days when those books are being returned to you, depending upon your shipping method. So the fourth thing that you should look at is there a difference in the value of the book between the graded version and the raw version? There's actually a great website that I like to use out there called comicspriceguide.com. And this is a great website that actually shows you the value of a book across all grades, raw and also graded. And as you can see, as you go down the list here, you can see that there are different prices that a book will sell for. But as you go down in grade, that gap between those two things starts to narrow. So you have to ask yourself, what grade is the book that you have? Does it make sense to send that book in, or should you just keep that book as a raw book? The fifth thing that you should think about is it just cheaper to buy a graded book versus sending your raw book in to be graded? Why do I say that? Well, let me run down the facts for you. When you look at the cost for getting a book graded, it can range anywhere from $20 on the low end to $38 on the upper end, depending upon the age and the condition of the book. When you're looking at getting that same book cleaned and pressed, your cost can run anywhere from $8 to $40. And if you add those two figures up, your range per book can be anywhere from $28 to as much as $78 for every single book that you send in. And I should mention that that does not include shipping to and from CGC. There's also some additional cost. There's cost for handling, and that runs anywhere from $5 to $8 per invoice. And then you also have to have a membership as well. And I think both CBCS and also CGC have memberships. The CGC membership runs anywhere from $25 to $299. So it's expensive. And so you have to ask yourself, with all of those expenses and with some of the other things that are mentioned in this list, does it make sense to have that book graded? Does it make sense just to buy that book already graded? So the last item on this list is number 6. And it's a question of, is it even necessary to have the book graded? I've spoken about this before. I personally believe that it is a personal prerogative if you decide to get your book graded. But just because you have a book doesn't mean that that book has to be graded. You can appreciate that book just the same in a Mylar or, you know, a regular bag and board in your box. And so if you don't have some solid justification for doing it, the question is, do you really need to do it? And if you decide that you want to do it for whatever reason, because the book has sentimental reasons for you or sentimental value, or because you want to, the good news is that it's still your decision. It's your personal prerogative if you decide to do it. I want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch this video. I hope that you found it informative. If you have not subscribed to my channel, I encourage you to do so. If you've already done so, I want to say thank you for that.